And we are live. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Google Slides and Drawing for Littles. My name is Rhiannon Gutierrez, and I'm the Director of Digital Learning for BPS Technology. And joining me in the chat is Kate Ziegler, an instructional coach on my team. Both of us will be providing you with resources and support around using various Google apps with your little ones. This webinar was created because of popular demand to have resources and supports for early childhood educators. So there will be a strong focus on activities for pre-K to second graders. And keep in mind, we are trying to focus exclusively on Google Apps. There might be other ones out there that you use, and we're happy to discuss those with you towards the end of the webinar. All right. Whether this is your first webinar with us or your fifth, we want you to know that this webinar is being recorded for your purposes. We will be sharing a link to the slide deck as well as the recording after today's webinar. Kate will also post a link to the chat, to the slide deck so you can access some of these links as we go. If there's anything you miss, we will keep bringing it back to you so that you can stay on task with us. We also do have an attendance form, reflection, feedback form that we send out to all registered participants at the end of the webinar. And this attendance form will be emailed to you. If you do not get it right now, you will get it in email at the end. It looks like everybody who's present today is displaying their name in Zoom, which is awesome because we know who you are and why you're here in this space. I ask that you please make that change if you don't have your name displayed. If you have any questions, we do have a large group today. Please post those questions in the chat. I will reference them as we go along. Kate will also try to answer questions the best she can. Given that we have a large group, some questions may not all get answered right away, as we do have a hard stop in an hour. All right, with that being said, let's talk about Google for Littles. Our agenda for today is to frame why it's important that we talk about using Google with little ones, and ways that we can find resources, select and create these resources, and then ultimately share them with our students. So this really will be in three major tiers: find, select, share. So why are we talking about this? I mentioned that this was a webinar that a lot of people wanted, so that's why we're running it. But also when it comes to Google Apps, we're all using them in some way with our colleagues, maybe even with our families. And when it comes to working with little ones, the same ideas also apply. We think about personalization, differentiation, collaboration, offering that real-time feedback using video, audio, images, as well as student engagement. Because I know that that's a big struggle for a lot of people right now. And hopefully some of these apps and activities that we share today will help with that student engagement. With that being said, we do have some existing resources out there that you might want to utilize as you do this. Some resources we found helpful are the BPS Early Learning website. They have pushed out various videos as well as different activities that you can do with your students. And you can think about, how can I take this activity and translate it to a Google app? You can also look at some other ones that are out there, existing templates, and think about how you can use that template to bring in your own design. Because maybe you want to use BPS stuff, maybe you're using your own. I don't know what you're doing, but either way, we hope there's something in here for you. With that being said, let's dive in to find out what it is that we're using. So some tools and templates that we're really interested in addressing are Google Drawing, Slides, Chrome Canvas, Google Docs, Classroom, and some screencasting tools. Now, all of these apps that you see listed here that are Google apps can be found in Clever. So the link to Clever, Kate will post it in the chat, is bostonpublicschools.org/backpack. If you are a teacher or a student, you will see a link to all these Google apps in Clever. It's a quick and easy way to access them. Clever is a really good tool to be using with your students, especially because it's so visual. We also have links to some screencasting tools within Clever. One of them includes Screencastify. Screencastify is a free app that you can use. When you record up to 5 minutes. There's also Loom and QuickTime, and we'll be discussing all of these more in depth later. But there are a range of tools out there that you can use with your students that are free. We're not going to talk about tools that you have to pay for in order to use anything. All of these are free and they're in Clever, or they already come on your computers. With that being said, we're going to skip ahead to what that is to select some of those tools. Now, some of these tools are meant for you to either design something from scratch on your own, or you can use an existing template. I'm a big believer in getting inspiration from other people and other work that they've done. So I'm going to show you some ways that you can use pre-existing templates to infuse your own stuff in there. So some of the stuff that you might be seeing inside of my slide deck are things that have been used by other people. All right, let's get started with the first one, which is Google Drawing. Google Drawing, there's a really quick way to access it in case Kate will post the link in the chat. And the URL is docs.google.com/drawing. If you go to that link, it will give you a canvas in which you can create your own design. Alternatively, if you're interested in bringing in a template, I'm going to show you how you can do that as well. So what can you make with Google Drawing? Well, Google Drawing has a lot of those icons that you might be familiar with in Google Slides as well. You can create drag and drop activities for students. You can create static or interactive graphics that can be slideshows or single documents for students to see, like posters, for example. You can also create various tracing activities. So one of the things that Google Drawing does is it allows you to use a pen tool, which you can't really get in other apps. And finally, you can do different copy and paste activities. With that being said, let's look at some examples. So there is a site that I actually really like because whether you teach the arts or science or all subjects, or even want to do something with a PD, this template site has something for you. Let's take a look at some examples. So some sites that you, or examples that you see here for social studies, you have things for magazines, posters, newspapers. Math, you have different things related to fractions and word problems. Science, problem solution, root causes, concept ladder. Virtual manipulatives. For technology, we have some examples that we'll get to later. Vocabulary, you have the Frayer model. There's also like different drag and drop activities you can do. Reading and language arts, you have templates for stories and comparisons. And then there's just general use, thinking about just graphic organizers like the KWL chart. You have things for memes, you have Venn diagrams. So all of those are things that you can definitely use. So if you're not looking for things with subject areas, but you're looking for just general graphic organizers, you can get a template here because Google Drawing does make use of all those basic shapes. Now, the link that Kate is sharing with you, there's a couple ways you can access it in the chat. If you wanted to follow along and participate, you either may have to highlight the link that she posts and copy and paste it in your browser, or you can click on it. It's really important that you make sure that you are logged in with your BPS email. Otherwise, you may not be able to access it. So Kate will try to troubleshoot in real time as much as she can.
Hey, Ree. Yeah, I think there's a couple links that aren't working, but you know, it depends on where you want us to go. But I know that it is true in the slide deck, there are a few links that aren't working.
All right, we'll just take a look and see what happens, okay?
Yeah, do you want to click on them with us maybe and show us where you want people to go? That might help.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, this particular drawing is different, so we will work on that link. Let's try a different one. Okay, so with that being said, this link here for all the slides, templates, we can add that in here as well. So let's copy that, slides templates. Sorry, not slides, drawing templates. There's a difference between the two. All right. Okay, so that particular site will give you links to some of those drawings that you can use. I actually copied one of them over. I'm going to show you what that looks like. So I have a drag and drop sandbox activity. I'm just going to do a quick display of what I did. I looked at those templates on that website I shared with you and created my own. So basically you have your canvas here with your various icons in the top left corner. And then I created various shapes that you can enter various text in. And essentially what I'm asking students to do for this particular activity is to take the items in blue and drag them to the items in gray. If that is what the correct answer is. Obviously that is not the correct answer here, but you get the gist. So you can create a drag and drop activity like this for your students. If you are interested in doing this activity right now in real time, I'm going to make a copy for you, and then you can click on the link in the chat to access it. Okay. All right, so I just pasted a link to that copy document in the chat. I may also need to adjust some sharing permissions, so let me just do that really quickly, okay? All right. All set. All right, so hopefully that link will work for you. You are not being graded on whether you can do this in real time or not. Really what I want you to see here from this particular activity is that I looked at a website that had a bunch of templates, which is this site right here. And then I made my own using Google Drawing, which you see here. The link that I shared with you in the chat, the copied link, gives you this template if you wanted to use it for any reason for your own learning. All right, with that being said, Google Drawing, you can do some fun activities like this, where you can play around with those icons in the top left corner to add things like images. You can upload them from your computer or from the web if you want to do that. For example, I'm talking about the solar system here. This is kind of text heavy. So what I could do is I could certainly, add an image of the solar system to brighten up my document and make it more engaging for students. So you can do various things like this to spice up your drawing. Let me adjust that image really quick. There we go. Obviously, you can play around with it. Other things you can do, I mentioned, it's very unique with Google Drawings that you can use a pen tool. So how do we get to that? Back to those icons in the top left corner. There's the text box there, pretty self-explanatory. That's how I got the text here. Shapes, same idea, how I got the shapes here. But then there's also a line there, so you can draw different lines. But rather than clicking on that, I'm gonna click on the drop-down arrow. It's kind of tiny, but it's there. And then you see things like creating other connectors or the scribble. And that's where you can get things that would allow you to sketch like that. And you can certainly make those adjustments because it gives you more features afterwards to adjust the thickness of something. So these are really, really good for you, especially if you want to offer some options for your learners to be able to see images, to draw. I mean, if you're a math teacher teaching math concepts, these are really good tools for you to use, the drawing tools. I'm just going to undo that because I just made my document a little messy there. But you get the gist. If you play around with these various tools, it'll allow you to make those adjustments to your shape, your color, your thickness, the placement of it. And not only that, what's really, really nice is that you notice I have a certain shape of this. You don't have to keep that shape, you can adjust it. So if I go where it says File, that's where I can make those adjustments for the page setup and how I want it to be laid out. And I could change that. And it will squish my document, especially that's what I want to do. So that's a little bit about how you can use drawing, and drawing integrates very well with slides. So if you create a template like this and you don't want all students in one, Classroom allows you to really push out each of those individualized activities for your students. We'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end. So that's drawing for you. Another thing that you can utilize is something that we call a hyperdoc. If you've attended webinars with Kate, you've heard her talk about hyperdocs before. And what hyperdocs are interactive documents. So let's take a look at this one. This is actually a link that everyone can access in real time. So Kate, if you wouldn't mind posting a link to this hyperdoc in the chat. This is free for everyone to use. So this particular link, which I made editable for everyone, will allow you to customize and put your activities in here. For example, I just made a single activity earlier with my solar system drag and drop activity. What this activity is here is actually a choice board in which I have multiple activities linked. So you can use this template to create your own choice board, where all you have to do really is just replace the content that's in there. For example, it says it's all about spring in Boston. We can swap that out and rename it to be something else. It can be all about flowers. And then with that being said, we would want to change the links all around the margins here. For example, I have different icons that mean something different. So if there's a Google or a YouTube link here, that means it's going to take me to a video. If there's a yellow icon here that stands for Google Slides, it's going to take me to a slide deck. If it's a sticky, it's probably going to take me to a note of some sort. So those icons are letting the students or the users know, oh, we're going here for this. You might actually find all those options to be overwhelming, and that's totally fine. You should customize it. What I've done is only customize the very first one here. And this video for a Make Way for Ducklings Read Aloud. So you can visit that and add your own links. And what you see around the margins here with teacher instructions and takeaways and student instructions are basically just telling you this is what you need to do things within this document. So you can always delete those boxes when you're finished. All right, that's our piece on Google Drawings. There are other tools out there that we definitely want to make sure we visit to make some more interactive activities. The next one is far simpler, and this is what I would recommend if you are looking for a whiteboard app. It's called Chrome Canvas. It is in Clever. You might find it either underneath the arts category or underneath the student voice category in Clever. You can make various templates to draw over. You can create standalone graphics. You can whiteboard, as I said, but it's really, really good for touchscreens. So if you are using a touchscreen device like a mobile phone, or maybe some Chromebooks might have touchscreen on them, or a tablet, this is a really good tool for that. Let's take a look. Kate has also posted a link to it in the chat as well for your reference. All right, let's take a look. All right, so my Chrome Canvas is loading. This is actually a pretty new app from Google. I'm really excited about it because I think it just really simplifies things for a lot of people. It gives you the option to draw in a way that you're more accustomed to for drawing apps. All right, I have two that I've done before. I can go up to the top left corner where it says New Drawing and create a brand new one. What it does is it gives me a white canvas. And on the left side, you can see the various options. For example, I have here the color black. I can click that color and adjust. Let's make a flower. You can adjust what the pens look like on the side here and make it a marker if you feel like that's a better fit. There, that's nicer. Now I'm still making a flower. Let's play around with the different colors. And now I'm using a mouse for this, so it's not the best one that you see, but still doing my best. You can add some nice little features there if you're interested. And this is in Clever, yes. You can find a direct link to this website. There we go, that's really cute. And when you're done with your particular drawing, it makes it super easy for you to save it. Now you may not be able to see it on my screen because it's super tiny, but in the top right corner, there are 3 dots. If I click on those 3 dots, I can save it as an image. And then once it's saved as an image, I can place it in anything I want from that point on. So if you're someone who likes to doodle, or you want to show a math concept, you can definitely do this. So I'll just say flower. Oops. And this is saving it to my desktop. So once it's on your desktop, you can put it anywhere. If you're interested in layering, there's also an option in the top right corner that allows you to add layers, especially if you might have one design that you don't want to get edited, and you can put a new one on top of it. All right. I can go back to the home page on the top left corner, and then instead of creating a new drawing like this one, I can do new from image. That's essentially what I did with the second one that you see here with the boxes. And if you have a choice board or you have a template where you want people to trace over it, this is a great example of that. Let me see. I have maybe a screenshot of something here. I don't know what this is. Here it is. This is on how to make a Flipgrid. So you could use this and even do like how-to tutorials for people, because people might be like, where am I supposed to click? This is a great way to do that. You can just circle this. And you can go step 1, 2, 3. You know, you get the gist. So this is really good for you to create things that you might have images that you want to lay something on top of it, depending on what it is. All right, and this, as I said, is available in Clever. All right, the next thing I want to show you is Google Slides. Google Slides has a lot of overlap along with Google Drawing. And it's actually really exciting. Kate will share a link in the chat with you to various activities that are really cool. With Google Slides, you can make things like games and puzzles. You can do drag and drop activities. You can use interactive storybooks. You can play back audio and video. So you can definitely embed those in the slide deck. You can also create templates with a locked background. A little bit of a note on the latter one is around, if you look at my own slide deck right now, you could see around the margins, I have this orange thing. If I click on it, it will move because I've locked it down as a template. And the text that's on top of here is things that I can move. So slides gives you a lot of freedom to create something that is static for students that you can then make interactive. All right. So with that being said, let's check out some slides activities. Now, I want you to keep in mind that a lot of what I'm showing you today might feel like you're drinking from a fire hose, because really the goal of today is for you to get ideas for things that you can do with your students. If you are interested in learning more in depth about how to use some of these apps, and I'm calling this out specifically for slides in particular, some of these apps involve a lot of practice, a lot of like trial and error. We actually do offer webinars for you on how to create Google Slides and how to create a Google Classroom, how to create screencasts. So if you're in that space of where you're like, I don't know how to use these tools to make these things happen, we have more webinars for you where you can learn that. But if you're in a space where you're just looking for ideas, then these are where the links come into play. All right. So with that being said, there is actually one link that I want Kate to share with you around 30 interactive activities. And this is from somebody who's a really big Google guru. He likes to make lots of fun stuff. He's made Jeopardy games, various interactive quizzes and the like. So if you're looking for some inspiration and fun ideas and templates that you can reuse, this is a good site for you to do that for Google Slides. Let's take a look. All right. So he has a whole bunch of them listed there. I mentioned a Jeopardy game. You can click on play a Jeopardy game if you wanted to test out that particular one. There's also a choose your own adventure story. Slides is great for that because you can navigate to different ones as opposed to doing it in a linear fashion. You can create newsletters. You can do digital gallery walk, interactive math stories, memes. So there's lots of fun stuff that you can utilize. All right. So one of the questions that I saw in the chat is around utilizing some of these apps I'm talking about. Now, if you are going on a website, you obviously go to the URLs of those sites. But if you are using a tablet or an iPhone or an Android phone, you do need to have the apps downloaded in order to interact with these. All right, so let's take a look at a sample activity. This actually received positive feedback last time I demoed it, so I'll demo this in real time right now. We have a link here for creating an accessible book. I'm going to go ahead and open that. Kate's also sharing that with you in the chat as well. Okay, it's taking a moment to load. So as I mentioned, Google Slides can be great for creating interactive storybooks as well. You might even be wanting to do that with your students for various reasons. Maybe you want to embed video in there so you could assign some stories to them. Maybe you want to embed images in there so that they can actually see, just see those words visualized. Or maybe you're looking to embed your voice and have audio in there. Whatever you decide to do, all of that is entirely possible with Google Slides. So with that being said, let's take a look at what I created. So I have a slide deck here where I used, when I created a brand new slide, I went to the top left corner and I basically just chose a new slide. And I added my text to it. And now I'm not satisfied with this. I need to make it more interesting, right? So how do I make it look like this slide that I'm showing you here? My first part of my story is today's sunny, and you could see a picture, you could see an audio bubble. How did I do that? So I just typed my text. Now, the image is coming from a tool which Kate can post in the chat called Read and Write for Google Chrome. This is available on all student Chromebooks. It should be available for you in your Chrome browser as a teacher. If you do not see it, the link that Kate is posting will allow you to download that extension so that you can use it. It is free for you to use because we pay for it as a district for everyone. With that being said, let's check out Read and Write and how we can use it with slides. So I just activated Read and Write as a purple puzzle piece in my Chrome extensions. I need to be using the Chrome browser for this to work. And it launches this toolbar for me. Now, I want to insert an image. So before I do that, I'm going to put my cursor right where the word is. I want to visualize the word rain. So I click this, go into that Read and Write toolbar, and I'm going to click on the icon for Picture Dictionary. It's going to give me a pop-up of different options for the visuals. And one of them is this. So sometimes there's a whole bunch, sometimes there's just one. So this is what I've got. I'm going to drag it and drop it right into my slide deck. Now you can repeat this process for every sentence that you write. If you wanted to have a word visualized for your particular student. Now, sometimes it doesn't work, so we can just try it one more time, it'll be all right. One of the troubleshooting tips for Read and Write is that you just kind of have to refresh the page sometimes if it doesn't work the first time, but it will work. All right, there we go. I have my image in there of the rain. And once again, how I did this is I had to make sure I was using the Read and Write extension, and I selected the Picture Dictionary to bring in that image of the rain cloud. With that being said, that's not enough for me. I want to include video, I want to include audio. How do I do that? So in the top left corner, there's an insert button. That insert button allows you to put in various things, including images, if you wanted to use a different picture. Text box is audio and video. Now, we're talking about audio specifically, so I'm going to select audio. And it's going to pull up everything that I have as an audio file in my Google Drive. So this is not on my computer, this is in my Google Drive. Now, with that being said, I'm going to scroll down and find the particular audio track I like. So you can record something on your computer and bring it in here. We'll show you a little bit how to do that recording later. But right now, I'm just going to select this particular one. Let's hypothetically say this is the one where I'm talking. All right. So it brings it in, and then it'll be there as a bubble, and you can always adjust the sizing of that bubble. So that for every slide you create, you don't need to keep it simple by having text only. You can add images, you can add audio, and finally, you can also add video. So if you have a video that you want people to see, like I can do a Google search for rain. Please, before you publicize this with all your students, watch the entire video before you just say this is good for everyone to watch, because maybe it's not appropriate for your students. So there we go. Now I have my text, image, audio, and video. You can use all of them or one of them. And this is really, really fun because this is how you can really step up your slides game. Like slides don't simply have to just contain text. They don't just simply have to be a presentation. I mean, if that's all they were, then they would be pretty boring. So think about some creative ways that you can utilize this with your students. And Kate and I are always here to help you and be a sounding board for you as well. All right, so that's a bit about slides. Now, just segueing into what I was talking about with slides, let's say that I actually want to create a narrated slideshow, meaning that I take this entire slide deck that I created and make it into a book, a read aloud. How do we do that? So this is going back into some screencasting tools, and I noticed we had some questions in the webinar about the availability of some of these tools, and I want to clarify before I demo any of them. So 3 screencasting tools that we recommend are Screencastify, Loom, and QuickTime. Screencastify allows you to record videos up to 5 minutes for free. Anything after that, you will have to pay for. We do not have a district account in BPS, but the 5-minute limit is generally pretty good. If you're looking to do more stuff like drawing and annotation or making longer videos, then you might want to consider the paid version, but I think there's a lot you can do without needing to go that far. With that being said, we also have Loom as something that we recommend. Kate can post the links to both Screencastify and Loom in the chat. So Loom allows you to have recordings that are longer than 5 minutes. There is a premium version that you can use if you wanted some extra features. And if you've watched any of Mark Racine's webinars, you might notice that he has his screen and there's a little bubble that kind of moves around on the screen. That's Loom. QuickTime is something that you can use for free. It already comes on your Mac devices. If you go to the top right corner and look for the spotlight icon and type in QuickTime, you have access to it. QuickTime has absolutely no time limit. And if you use QuickTime in conjunction with another one, such as iMovie, then you can do more editing. So if you're somebody who's like, I just want to record, nothing fancy, all 3 of these tools will meet your needs, absolutely, without you having to spend a penny. However, if you are looking to go to the next level by having all these different clips edited on top of each other, I would definitely recommend, if you are a Mac user, to use a tool called iMovie. It's free and it allows precisely for that level of editing. And again, this is more recommended for advanced users. That's not the focus of today's webinar, but it is there for you if you want more. So there was a request in the chat for various district tools that are available. I think it's safe to say that if you see it in Clever, it is available for you to use. If you do not see it in Clever, then you probably can't use it. Another thing to keep in mind too, there is a link that I'll post at the end where we have some that we do pay for district-wide, but every school has different needs. We do have over 125 schools, so not all of these apps will be used by everyone. All right. So with that being said, screencasting. A lot of kids want to do this. A lot of teachers want to use this, especially early childhood teachers. I think this is a fabulous tool for you to take away and use for your how-tos, read alouds, weekly check-ins, telling stories, practicing skills, or making thinking visible. Now, if you want to give your students a tool to use, they can use Screencastify. If you want a tool to use, you can use any one of these three. And there are unlimited minutes for certain users until June for some of these tools. The only reason that we're not promoting that is because you're only going to have it for a short time. So you definitely want to take that into consideration. Do I want to upgrade and then have everything taken away? So that's an individual user need to assess. So all of these tools work on Macs. QuickTime works exclusively on Macs. The other two can work on PCs or Chromebooks. All right. We have various activities that you can check out if you click on slide number 17. I also do have a webinar that is focused exclusively on screencasting that I'd be happy to share with you at the end of this webinar. But let's actually look at what it means to use Screencastify with my slideshow. So I'm going to demo this in real time right now. I'm going to clean up a couple things before I do that. All right, I have to close out a few things because one of the things that's super important, this is a tip you're seeing in real time, is you do not want all these windows open that you're not going to use in your screencast. It will slow it down. It will also be a lot of visual clutter. So the more you can simplify it, the better. With that being said, I think my screen looks ready. Let's close that one too. Okay. So here is my slideshow that I'm going to do a recording of. And I mentioned Screencastify has a 5-minute limit, which works for me. This recording isn't going to last longer than 5 minutes. I'm keeping it simple. I've already installed it at the Chrome Web Store. And once I do that, I can click on the icon for Screencastify up here to activate it. It was going to ask me a couple of things about making sure that things are turned on, which is important if you want it to work. So I've turned on my microphone, I've turned on my webcam, and I want to record my desktop. Let's do that. I'm going to clean it up a little bit so you can see. Now I'm going to start the recording. It'll be my entire screen. There we go. It asks you if you want part of it or all of it. Okay, there we go. So I've already started my recording, and it's okay if you start the recording before you're fully ready because you can always trim it at the beginning and at the end. All right. The Boston Public Garden by Rhiannon. Today is sunny. It did not rain today. It is not raining. I feel like taking a walk. I want to see some flowers. I heard about a place called the Boston Public Garden. I asked my mom if we can visit the garden. She said, yes. We are here in the garden. I see tulips. Some are yellow, others are pink. My favorite is red. My mom told me about ducks. I said hello to the ducks. We sat down on a bench and watched them. This was my favorite day. Now I just stopped my recording. When you're done, you can just go ahead and pause it, and then it will actually open up another window where you can review your entire recording to see what you want to keep or get rid of. There we go. Stop. So Screencastify is definitely a tool that you can use to capture either your whole screen or audio only. So as I mentioned earlier, if you don't want to do an entire recording of something, you can record portions of it. But in this case, I chose to do the whole thing. And once I check out my recording, I can actually share it afterwards with my students or with my staff, depending on who it's for. You can see the options on the right column where you can just copy the shareable link if you just want to send it as it is and post it somewhere. You can share it directly to Classroom or to YouTube. You can also download it. I actually strongly recommend you download it as an MP4 file. And I say this because then if you have a download, you can actually put it in multiple places because this format is more usable across various devices. Another thing that I want to emphasize. All right. Another thing that I want to emphasize before you share the link to this with anyone is to make sure that it's accessible. We do have a separate webinar where we talk about that, but YouTube and Google Drive allow you really easy ways to make your content accessible. In this particular case, I am reading verbatim what is on the screen, so I can just send it as it is. All right, so that's a little bit about Screencastify. My video is under 5 minutes. I did this for free, and I share the link when it's ready. Okay, I'm gonna close that window with that being said. All right, now, I just went over various tools that you can use to create content or to reuse content for your students. But now you have to share it with them. And what's that gonna look like? There's a couple different ways we've seen teachers share things with students. One of those ways is to use Google Docs. Earlier, you saw me use Google Drawing to create a choice board. You can use Google Docs to create that choice board or their schedules where you do include links to things, where you include links to your slide presentations, your narrated slideshows, your videos, your audio, your drawings, all of those things can be linked inside of a Google Doc to direct families or students to do something. And you can make it really engaging and interactive. We have some links for you where you can see some examples of some nicely designed choice boards if you are looking for some inspiration to try it a little differently. Alternatively, if you are using Google Classroom, which I know is a challenge for a lot of people in early childhood, I will give you a full disclosure. I think that people do find it much easier to use non-Google tools like Seesaw or maybe even email to share links with students. That's why I did want to preface it with Google Docs because that's a little bit simpler because there's a lot happening in Google Classroom. You know, it's very text heavy, not exactly the most visually friendly for students. However, there are a couple ways you can make it more friendly for them. You can make it easier for parents and students by just scheduling new posts, you know, in bulk as opposed to having them randomized throughout the day. If you send something at 9 p.m., something at 8 a.m., that's very confusing, very overwhelming. So try to consider a consistent time if you're not doing so already. To have a predictable order, you can have it organized by week. We've seen a lot of people do that. We do this on our own. Sometimes people put new on top, old on the bottom. So that's something to consider. We also recommend using emojis in the text. So you don't simply just have to type out week 1. You can also include a visual there to make it more visually friendly for students. So I used emojis here to embed into my presentation. And you can easily do that by Googling emoji keyboard online, and you can copy and paste that over. It's really easy to do. Another thing you can do, and this is something that's much better suited to a Google Classroom webinar, is to make copies for students. So I was talking earlier about using things like Google Drive, Google Slides, you want to differentiate for your kids. You want to push out very specific templates for them. And you can do that using Google Classroom. I really encourage you to attend and go slow with Google Classroom webinar or Google Classroom 101 if you want to learn the basics of how to do that. In addition, we also have a sandbox that you can join today if you would like to see how we've structured things in our Google Classroom for students, because this is actually really, really helpful, I think, for me as a learner. Kate can testify to this as well, is it just helps to see it be modeled. So if you wanted to come into this space on your own and see how we structured it, please do so. If you need more one-on-one support, we have those opportunities for you as well. With that being said, you may also be wondering, well, I'm using Seesaw, so how does this compare to Google Classroom? Seesaw is one of those tools out there that really is designed more for young learners in mind. And I know that our early childhood office has actually spoken positively about it. So Seesaw does offer a free version. We do not pay for it as a district at this time. That is something you can definitely check out if you would like to incorporate some of these activities with your students. And just like with any Google app that I'm talking about, if you are using a tablet or a mobile device, you will need to install Seesaw separately to interact with the program and all of its features. All right, the final thing that I'm going to share with you for sharing is Clever. I mentioned that we all have access to Clever in BPS. If you are a teacher or a student or a paraprofessional or a staff member or an administrator, you have access to Clever. You just need to go to the link. And the link, once again, is bostonpublicschools.org/backpack. Now, anyone can access it. However, only if you are a classroom teacher with a schedule in Aspen can you customize it for your students. With that being said, adding things like those assignments in Google Classroom, those check-in templates, those activities, if you are a classroom teacher with a schedule in Aspen, you can post that to your Clever page. Otherwise, you will not be able to do that. And all you can do in Clever really is just access links, because Clever is that one-stop shop for links. The customization only happens if you're a teacher. So with that being said, I'm going to check in, see if we have any questions so far. All right. I know that some people were asking about various screencasting tools. It looks like you got your questions answered. And I know that there's definitely some challenges around, using Google Classroom, and we're here to help find those strategies. And some people said that there was some trouble with Google Classroom code, so it definitely works. Just make sure you enter the code as Kate posted it as well. Now, I'm going to share a couple more things and then we'll pause the recording and answer some questions more directly. So I mentioned a number of webinars that you can possibly attend or watch if you're interested in extending your learning, especially on the functionality of some of these tools. We do have live webinars that we are offering for the rest of the week and actually afterwards as well. We know some people are aiming to get their 5 hours completed, but I also know that your first priority is your students. And you want to keep learning how to use these tools to support your students. So we are here for you until the end of the school year and through the summer. So please check out our live webinars link that I'm going to post in the chat for you. All right. Additionally, if you are interested in taking a deeper dive into some of these Google apps, but are like, you know what, I can't attend a webinar, we also have a link for you to join our self-paced course, which is 100% about Google Apps. All right. With that being said, let's check out a couple of questions in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording and also share a couple more links so that you can see what you need.